Do you remember Miss Yamaguchi? I heard she went missing. No one knows where she is. She just disappeared. There's a rumor about a weird scar. The people who have the mark are found dead or missing. I have this mark, and like the rumor says, I don't know how or when I got it. For some reason, I can't even remember my name, but I feel like I need to hurry. There's a large mansion in front of me. I don't know how I got here. When I search my pockets, all I find is a business card. In elegant letters, it says, Saya Kujo, Spirit Healer. When I knock on the mansion doors, nobody answers, but I can see from the second floor a light turn on. The door is unlocked, so I decide to go in now and apologize later. Inside is total darkness. I call out, but again there's no reply. Then, my ears catch a strange sound. Someone's there. I think they're staring at me. I call out, but again there's no reply. I move closer, but the person still doesn't say anything. I reach out, and when I touch the arm, I can feel how stiff and cold it is. It's not a human. It's a doll, and a doll's joints creak when they move. That must have been the sound I heard. But then, how did it move? I move up to the second floor to investigate the room with the lights on. But when I get there, something strange occurs. I knock on the door, and again, there's no reply. I walk in, and the lights are off. There's a strange smell wafting through the air. The floor is wet. Something strange is going on. Then, in the flash of lightning, I can see it. There's a body on the floor with flowers blooming out of the stomach. Horrified, I wrench my gaze away from the grotesque sight and escape from the room. When I get back to the main hall, the lights are on, and in my confusion, all I can hear is a greeting.
ようこそ
This is Mary, a living doll left behind by her master, Saya Kujo. I can't even remember my own name, so we decide on a temporary name together, Kazuo Yashiki. Saya Kujo had been cursed by the mark and had been researching ways to escape from her fate. Mary guesses that perhaps I had been called to the mansion by Saya Kujo because of my own death mark. The mark is the seal of death, and those who have it are fated to die. Victims slowly lose their memories until the day they die. They face death all the while suffering the terror of losing oneself, memory loss. This explains why I can't remember anything, but because I have lost so much memory, Mary says that this can only mean one thing. I will probably be killed by next morning. Salvation is a thin thread dangling from heaven. I have no choice but to find a way to escape from my death mark. Mary cannot use her legs, but she will offer any information she has about the supernatural forces that I face. As I settle into my new reality, there's a pounding on the door. Other mark bearers have arrived to the Kujo mansion, seeking help from the now deceased Saya Kujo. Moe Watanabe, a high school girl obsessed with the occult, and Tsukasa Yoshida, a young boy. Saya Kujo had written an article about the death mark, which had been published in a magazine about the supernatural. I decide it's best to lie to the children, so I tell them I'm a relative of Saya Kujo. They assume I'm her older brother. They've come to the mansion because they both have their own death mark, and while skeptical, they both admit that they are starting to lose their memories. I introduce the children to Mary. The supernatural is much easier to believe in when it is explained to you by a living doll. Moe and Tsukasa then explain to us how they got their marks. Moe had been exploring an abandoned elementary school in search of the ghost, Hanahiko. Tsukasa, staying late one evening at his school, had a chance encounter with Hanahiko when he passed by a mirror. Mary has heard the rumor of Hanahiko. If you peek into a school mirror late at night, a young boy will appear and ask you a single question. Am I pretty? If you say no, he disappears. But if you say yes, then he'll say, give me that red stuff then. And then he disappears. But that's not all. They say Hanahiko hates adults, so if the person he asks is an adult, they will find that person drained of all their blood. And next to the corpse is a single rose. Mary is skeptical of the rumor of Hanahiko, but she notes that there may be a sliver of truth to the story told. I can only think of the body of Sayakujo covered in flowers. The body has since disappeared. These strange occurrences are no coincidence. Both Moe and Tsukasa found their death mark after having run-ins with Hanahiko by a school mirror. There is no time, so it's decided that we will go to H Elementary School while Moe had her encounter with Hanahiko to investigate the rumor. H Elementary is abandoned and thus has less security than Tsukasa's school. I have no memory or license, but Mary allows us to use the car in the Kujo mansion for our travels. I can only take one person with me to investigate, so I take Moe because it doesn't feel right to take Tsukasa, a young boy, with me into a potentially dangerous situation. Mary explains that having too many mark bearers together at the same time will increase our spiritual energy and attract the spirits and speed up her own death mark. Tsukasa will wait behind at the Kujo mansion with Mary. We arrive to the entrance of H Elementary School, where we encounter a single security guard who lets us go after I lie to him because he's very bad at his job. Moe and I investigate the school, and as we explore the eerie hallways, we come across a black bunny. It runs away, and as we keep investigating, we find the same mirror that Moe found when she investigated Hanahiko on her own. I look into the mirror, and he appears, just like the rumor says. He asks me, am I pretty? So I say, no. He says, if only I had the red stuff. Then he asks me, am I an adult? So I lie to him and I say no, I'm just a tall child. Hanahiko disappears. I've survived the encounter. What Mary said must be true. There's slivers of truth that can be found in the supernatural rumor. According to Mary, I must callously manipulate the truth and leftover grudges of the spirit if I am to defeat it and get rid of the death mark. After our encounter with Hanahiko, we leave the mirror behind to investigate a noise we heard down the hallway from a separate classroom. When we get there, something slams against the classroom door. It rips open and suddenly the guard we met earlier bursts forth with plants and roots rotting away half of his face. The guard doesn't even register our presence. He rushes right past us and tries to escape from the school entrance. There's nothing we can do. Although the fear is building, we can do nothing other than continue to investigate. We enter the classroom the guard had escaped from and find that there's a storage room connected to it. After collecting the items from the storage room, something begins to bang on the door. The flashlight goes out and my death mark begins to burn my arm. Death is in the room next door. In a panic, we pry open the trap door in the storage room and quickly escape down it to escape from whatever is coming for us. We find a hidden basement covered in vines and roses. There are decayed corpses all over the place. The thing that was chasing us is gone, but now we have new questions. As we search the hidden basement, a man reveals himself. He too had been hiding from whatever was coming for us. He introduces himself as Satoru Mashita, an ex-detective. He comes off like a smarmy bastard, but in this place we'll take whatever help we can get. The three of us leave the basement and we find that the school hallways have been covered in vines. We decide to regroup back at the Kujo mansion. On our way back, we do not see the security guard again. Once back at the mansion, we get everyone acquainted and then we hear what Mashita has to say about his experiences at H Elementary. He had been investigating the school for his own reasons, but was attacked by Hanahiko with thorns. Unable to defeat the spirit, he escaped down the trapdoor into the hidden basement, where he found a secret journal. I have a difficult time reading Mashita. He maintains a sarcastic, aloof attitude, yet when he hands me the journal, he isn't smiling. I can sense anger in his eyes. The journal was written by the principal of H Elementary, starting 5 years ago. The principal adopted a young boy. The boy was exceedingly cute and liked to wear skirts and makeup. The principal could not accept this. Bad habits must be corrected young to promote sound mental health. He called it tutoring. They would have sessions in the hidden basement at night once all the teachers had left school. The principal was highly respected, with appearances on TV and lots of social connections. Only one teacher was suspicious of the principal's activities, but she said nothing out of cowardice. As the journal continues, the notes become more deranged. The boy was growing weaker with each session, but the notes have no guilt or shame. They are written with fanatical sincerity, with the pride of an educator and a sick version of love. The journal ends abruptly. Whatever happened to the principal and the boy is unknown, but based on the condition of H Elementary, we can make a decent guess. If the boy in the journal is Hanahiko, that means the boy died and his lingering grudges turned him into a violent spirit. We get ready to go back to the school, but we discover that Moe is already gone. I take Mashita with me and again leave Tsukasa back at the manor. We go back to the mirror where we encountered Hanahiko and find Moe's bag on the ground. We also find the security guard's leftover keyring. Mashita seems to be having memory issues, which must mean our time is running out. With the security keys, we enter locked classrooms and find more items. A wire umbrella, a blood-covered plastic sheet, and I use an empty water bottle to scoop up old water from the classroom fish tank. As I collect these items, I hear a voice in my head. Their blood denies him. First, purified with seawater. I don't know what's going on, but this must be a hint. After gathering all the items we can, my death mark burns a deep crimson. Death is only minutes away. Mashita is having another brain lapse, and the black rabbit makes another appearance. Chasing after the rabbit leads us back to the mirror, and when we look up to the ceiling, we find Moe and the dead security guard entangled in vines. The vines break, and Moe falls to the ground. She survives the fall with the help of her big high school anime girl titties. Hanahiko is here. It's time for us to repel the spirit. I choose Moe as my partner for this battle. When Hanahiko attacks, we open the wire umbrella and cover it with the blood-stained sheet. The blood denies him. He moves closer and we again repel him with the blood-stained sheet. When he is close enough, I throw the salty seawater onto his vines. The act reminds Hanahiko of how he used to be bullied and he is weakened. Now, Moe takes out her red lipstick and applies it to Hanahiko's lips. We take out her hand mirror and Hanahiko looks at himself. This is the red stuff he has been looking for so long. A keepsake from his mother. Memories of a better time. He smiles and fades away. Moe cheers as she realizes her mark is now gone. She has survived the curse, but my death mark remains. We head back to the car, but Moe has lost her wallet and goes back into the school alone to look for it. She takes a long time. We hear her shriek from outside and rush in to find her. When we find her, she explains she had gotten spooked, but is otherwise fine, and she's found her wallet, so we finally leave and go back to the Kujo mansion. I get the feeling that if Hanahiko had not been exorcised peacefully, the lingering grudge would have spelled a violent end for Moe in that moment. Back at the Kujo mansion, Tsukasa tells us his mark has disappeared. Mary explains that my death mark remains because Hanahiko was likely not the one who gave it to me. While my death has been postponed, I must still search for the spirit who has cursed me. Spirits born of grudges have an insatiable hatred for the living. This persistent hatred is not sated by simply killing. Rather, they drag their victims to the depths of despair before their death. That is what the spirits desire. After our debrief, Mashita hands me a newspaper article. It's about the boy who died. Before he was adopted by the principal, he lived with his mother. She understood him unlike his adoptive father. She would put makeup on him in front of a mirror. Mashita has a sad smile. I think he might be a good person. The former mark bearers each retire to a guest room for the night. Mary holds me back and explains it is best for all of them to leave the manor in the morning and to return to their normal lives. Otherwise, they may attract themselves to the dangers that they have just escaped. Mary asks if I am apprehensive about being the sole occupant of the mansion. I tell her that she's here with me. Although she cannot do much, what little guidance she has given has been helpful so far. She looks lost in thought for a moment. We say goodnight and I go to bed. It's been 3 days since the investigation. Moe and Tsukasa have returned to their lives, but Mary has asked Mashita to stay and help. It makes sense. He seems capable in this situation, but the question is why would a sane person willingly stay behind to help a near-total stranger like myself? Something tells me Mashita isn't that kind of person, so why? Mary seems to have an ability to sense the future. Not full-on predictions, but the shape and course of a person's fate can be seen. It appears she has told Mashita that the truth he is seeking can be found here. I guess that's why he's agreed to stay. As we meander in the mansion, a loud knock sounds at the door. Another mark-bearer, a young delinquent-looking boy, Sho Nagashima. We get our introductions over with. Sho has the death mark. There's a forest nearby. It's said to be cursed, with all sorts of unsavory rumors surrounding it. Sho had been riding his motorcycle through the forest. It's empty at night, so he likes to ride and clear his head. But his bike breaks down, and while he stops to check it out, he notices the death mark has appeared. Like Moe and Tsukasa, Sho had read about the death mark from Saya Kujo's article. The only thing Sho can remember is seeing a huge man for a second before leaving. Mary interjects. There is a rumor that fits what Sho described. Shimiyo. There's a strange giant man, covered in black splotches. They call him Shimiyo, the spotted man of the forest. He asks everyone he meets a question. Do you like bees? A college student heard the rumors and went to the forest, and when he did, the giant man really did appear. Do you like bees? The student laughed and said, yeah, sure. I like them. The giant man replied, let's raise some then, in your body. Shimiyo kills his victim with a power drill. While we have little information to go on, this is the best we have. It fits Sho's description of a giant man close enough, so we decide to go to the forest to gather information. For this first trip, I take Sho with me. When we get there, we see the large entrance sign to the forest looming eerily. The letters are faded, leaving the word murder. As we begin traversing the trails, we hear footsteps. An exhausted salaryman appears. There is only one reason why a tired Japanese salaryman would be alone in a forest at night. The voice appears in my head. Stop him. Death invites death. I cannot allow him to give in to his suicidal ideations, lest the violent spirits find me as well. I managed to talk the man down, not with shallow sympathies, but by lending an ear to his grudges. The man calms down on his own and decides to go home. Ominously, he leaves us with the information that he too encountered a creepy giant man. We continue on, finding a hidden shack deep in the forest. The doorknob is covered in honey. We search the shack and find notes from a group called the Honeybee Family. There's also a large sack off to the side. It topples over, and a body drilled with holes and covered in honey drops out. We put the body back as we found it, thoroughly disturbed. We leave the shack and continue investigating the forest. As we walk down another path, a spirit grabs onto my ankle. It looks sad and lonely. I tell him to fuck off because I don't have time for his shit, and we continue. Sho is impressed with the way I handle spirits. Moving on, we come across a path guarded by large beehives. We cannot continue forward with bees in the way. At this point, I switch Sho with Mashita to see if there would be a meaningful difference in bringing a different partner on the investigation. With Mashita, I head back to the shack and I use a crowbar I had found on a locked toolbox. I find a spray gun and drugs, which I can use to assert dominance on the beehives. After making our way past the blocked path with beehives, the black rabbit makes another appearance. It waits for us to follow. It leads us down a deep pathway leading to a shrine. Unfortunately, the entrance is covered in giant out-of-reach beehives, and we can't investigate the area. Instead, we continue exploring the forest and find another shack. The door seems locked, so I force it open with my crowbar. There's a woman hiding in the shack. Christy Arimura, a freelance news anchor. Machito recognizes her, having been involved in a scandal which led to her being fired from her job. She too had come here to the forest alone to commit suicide, but an encounter with the giant man left her terrified, and she hid herself in this cottage. Christy has her own death mark, having only noticed it recently. She has decided she no longer wants to die, and will join our investigation to get rid of her curse. We decide to regroup back at the Kujo mansion, but then my flashlight turns off. Something bangs on the back of the cottage wall. I broke the door's lock when I forced it open with a crowbar. The shack is kept very clean. That means it's still being used. Someone is going to come in, and we have nowhere to hide, and we cannot lock the door. We decide to make a run for it. If we make even one wrong turn, the spirit will catch us. We run straight back, where Sho is searching for us. Mary had sensed we were in danger, and allowed Sho to come provide emergency support. As the group gets back to the entrance, Christy stares back at a picnic table. There's a huge misshapen man, with bees crawling all over his face, sitting at the table with a dead man. It's the salary man we met earlier. We're all terrified. My legs buckle. Christy is petrified. Sho is trying to get her back to her senses. Mashita says the spirit is gone. All it took was 2 seconds, and the spirit has disappeared. He's there. Mashita yells for us to run. He fires off a gunshot as we all scramble to the car. We all climb in, but the car won't start. The spirit violently rocks the car until I finally get it started and drive us the fuck away from the forest. The drive back to the Kujo mansion is tense. When we get back, Mashita gives me a gun with 5 bullets. He makes me promise I won't use it on anything other than a spirit. It's clear that the Japanese ex-policeman takes the power of guns very seriously. I don't plan on using it at all, but the gesture is nice. Now that we're all safe at the Kujo mansion, we debrief and get introductions out of the way. Because of our encounter with Shimio, Mashita has been cursed with another death mark. We begin to feel despondent over a situation, and the horror of the spirit we are facing. I feel like there's nothing I can do but rely on Mary for guidance. As if reading my mind, she interjects and encourages us to continue gathering information. Christy mentions that there's a bee farm in the northern area of the forest. Nobody goes there anymore. There was once a mass suicide by the Honeybee family cult 5 years ago. She once saw a picture of the leader, a huge, fat man. We all come to the same conclusion. There's only one thing to do, so we go back to the forest. This time, I take Christy with me for variety, and we explore the northern part of the forest. we come across a disgusting sight. Dangling from the trees is a cluster of corpses. The bodies are white as wax, countless holes are drilled into them, and bees are buzzing in and out of them. Suddenly, the beehives at my feet start to rattle. I'm going to die if I don't close the beehives in an arbitrarily decided order. I successfully avoid becoming a wicker man and we continue this stupid suicide forest investigation. I do not want to be here. I do not like being here. This place sucks. We continue and we end up finding another shack, and in this shack is another sack, and in this sack is the body of the Japanese salaryman, Masao Kimura. It's a grotesque, disgusting, horrible sight. It makes me rather uncomfortable. We can see the body has been treated like the others, covered in honey drilled with holes and acting as a beehive. I barely register the information in front of my eyes, because really I just want to leave, so we put the body back in the sack and then quickly pick up all the items we can before leaving. After seeing such a horrible sight, Christy confesses that she's now having doubts of whether she can face Shimio alongside me. I cannot blame her, so I switch her out for Sho, who has more physical capability to deal with the spirits. So, we meander around the forest a little bit longer, checking all the nooks and crannies to find all the items we need to possibly defeat Shimio. Things like drugs, more notebooks, and drugs, and of course, our most important weapon, vegetables. I don't really know why we need the vegetables, I just get a feeling that we do. It's almost like my desire to not be in a suicide forest at night with a psychopath is impairing my desire to fully read the notebooks I'm finding. It's almost like that. But finally, we're out of time. My mark burns crimson, the clock ticks, Shimio has made his appearance. It is at this point where I realize I really don't even like honey that much. I'm probably never gonna eat honey ever again, to be entirely honest. Shimio makes the first move, attacking with his bees. We have a baseball from Sho and a tennis ball which we found. We cover both balls in honey and liquid residue taken from the human beehives. We throw the balls and they act as a successful distraction for the bees. Now that Shimio is closer and without his bees, I use drugs on him, and Sho attacks him with his bat. With Shimio weakened, we combine honey with a fresh vegetable, not the dry one, and we throw it into his mouth. He seeks to expel it, but then realizes it's covered in honey, and he likes honey. The spirit Shimio is finally, successfully, peacefully exorcised, and although I don't really think he quite deserves peace, we survived the encounter, which is the important part. If I had not cared about my partner so much, who I had met a long several hours ago, I would have happily injected that fat body with all of the drugs and beaten him to death with a baseball bat. Unfortunately, it seems despite everything, I still have my death mark. In any case, we leave. We get the fuck out of this stupid fucking suicide forest where the animals scream at 5-minute intervals, scaring the shit out of me. We get the fuck home. We leave. I've got my bro, Sho, now. We're bros now, and we go back to the mansion. And we debrief. We find that Sho and Mashita's marks have disappeared, but Christie's remains. Like the last investigation after Hanahiko, it is decided that it would be best for Sho to leave now that his death mark is gone. Christy will have to stay. Then, Mashita pulls me aside. He says he's found the truth that he had been looking for, and has decided to leave the manor. Now that his death mark is gone, although he worries for me, he says he cannot in good faith continue to stick his neck out for me. And quite frankly, the situation that we find ourselves in is terrifying. I cannot blame him. We decide to meet up again, should I survive my ordeal. After all of this, I think I can say Mashita is a good person. But he does look like a smarmy cunt. It's been 3 days since Shimiyo's defeat. Mashita and Sho have left, leaving only Christy and I at the mansion. Nothing has happened since then, so Christy and I have spent the time searching through Sayakujo's study, reading all of her reports. We discover nothing particularly useful. Christy brings back up the mansion in the forest that we could not reach before. She believes possibly the shrine is connected to all the spirit stuff. There were notes left behind by Shimiyo when he was still a man. The cult he fostered believed that the shrine in the forest was responsible for supernatural happenings, as if divine wrath was being enacted upon the area. While it's no guarantee, it's the best idea we have. We talk it over with Mary, and she explains she is aware of the shrine. She says that it contains the guardian deity of the Kujo family. With the death of Sayakujo, the head of the Kujo family, there is no one to take care of the shrine. Mary is concerned about its present state and asks us to carry her to the shrine. It must be very inconvenient to live as a doll without the use of your legs. One has to wonder how it is Mary came to be, and why it is she can't use her legs but everything else can move. Luckily, Mary is not quite as heavy as expected, so the trip should not be too difficult, especially now that the spirit has been exorcised. We prepare to leave from the garage, and Christy points out that there are files here in the corner as well that we have not yet read. Christy quickly flips through one of the files. It contains information on various crimes that have happened in the city and the surrounding area. The most recent crime was 5 years ago. Again, that time, 5 years ago, keeps popping up. We decide to put a pin in the topic for now and head out to the forest once again. Once we are back at the now familiar arch of the entrance to the forest, Christy remarks that I myself look like a ghost story, a middle-aged man carrying a doll. Mary apologizes for being an inconvenience. She remarks that she has not been outside in a long time. Although she speaks in her usual monotone, there's something about her where she seems like she's actually having fun. However, now that she is here in person at the forest, she confirms the land is tainted. We quickly make our way to H Shrine, which is now no longer blocked by bees now that Shimiyo has been defeated. At the entrance to the shrine, the rabbit makes an appearance once again. Mary senses a strange presence from the rabbit. She says it seems to be possessed by a soul. It does not seem to possess enough power to give marks to humans, but it runs off towards the shrine and we follow it. The only thing we find is an old altar in disrepair. For some reason, all of the Buddha statues around the shrine are headless. Shinto and Buddhism were ordered to be separated during the Meiji period. During that time, extremists stole the Buddha statues from shrines and desecrated them. The head of the Kujo family at that time was said to be aggrieved, and it seems that all the broken statues from around H City were buried here at the Kujo Shrine. However, it seems since then, many statues have been stolen from the shrine. This land has been desecrated in more ways than one. Mary can feel a faint power coming from the forest, the same feeling she gets coming from Christy's mark. She is sure that the spirit who gave her the mark is somewhere in the forest. I do not glean anything immediately useful for our investigation. Mary apologizes for being unhelpful, but Christy says she has some ideas. We decide to go back to the Kujo mansion. As we leave, I get the feeling that someone is watching us from the trees. On the car ride back, Christy explains her theory. She believes Shimiyo was correct in saying that the H Shrine has something to do with all the supernatural happenings. In particular, it must be the stolen statues. I give half-hearted replies. I am not as passionate about the theory as Christy had hoped, and she falls into an awkward silence. Suddenly, Mary speaks up. She feels the same spiritual power in the area that comes from Christie's mark. At her request, I park in a vacant rest stop on the outskirts of H City. There's a phone booth here. My mark burns, giving me throbbing pain. A little girl steps out of the phone booth, and there's an older man waiting for her. Christie springs into action, ready to report the suspicious man to the police, but the girl defends him. She asks the man to help her speak to Hanayome. Hana meaning flower, Yome meaning bride. Hanayome is a ghost who helps find things. You can speak to her from several phone booths. Both the girl and man have death marks, the girl having received hers right now directly after making her phone call to Hanayome. We give them a rundown on how serious the situation is and then take them with us to the Kujo mansion. In the car, we do our introductions. The man is Eita Nakamatsu, the girl Suzu Morimiya. They met each other through the readers column of the supernatural magazine UBARTS Monthly, and Suzu pestered Eita into taking her to Hanayome. Suzu's parents are divorced and she has a strict home life, which is why she is sneaking around late at night. Nakamatsu tells us the story of the flower bride. At a particular phone booth, a ghost that looks like a bride will help you find what you're looking for. When you enter the box, the phone will ring, and on the other end is a strange smacking noise. Stay on the line long enough, and a woman will ask, "Did you see it?" To this, you must answer, "No, I didn't see it." Then, in reply, "What do you want to see?" If you follow the woman's directions, you will find what you're looking for. At the Kujo mansion, Mary says Christie's mark is the same as Nakamatsu's and Suzu's. Christie remembers, before she entered the forest, she stopped at a phone booth along the way on T Mountain. The phone rang, but Christie did not pick it up and left, thoroughly creeped out. Evidently, she was not safe from the curse. In the rumors, there are 3 phone booths that Hanayome will call from. It just so happens that Christie chose one of those boxes. Also, the rumors of Hanayome go back 5 years, but it is only recently that people have begun receiving death marks. Christie has an idea. What if we ask Hanayome where the stolen Buddha statues are? If we return them to their proper resting place, maybe that will save our lives. We ask for Mary's opinion. She explains that objects with human forms are easily able to gain inexplicable powers. She believes following the Buddha statue thread with Hanayome is a good idea. So we decide to visit all 3 phone booths in the rumor. The boxes are big enough for 1 person, so when Christie and I arrive at the first phone box, it's decided that I will answer the phone. In the phone booth is an old crime poster. 5 years ago, an assault took place in the forest nearby. The phone begins to ring. I hear nothing. Then, I hear a wet smacking sound, like chewing saliva. Did you see it? No. What do you want to see? I ask about the Buddha statues. Hanayome says, I already have the mark of Buddha on my arm. The woman devolves in hysterics. Then the phone call ends. This is not how the rumor goes. Nakamatsu and I go to the second phone booth. He tells me that Hanayome has a fixation on eyes. I am not to mention eyes in any way during our conversation. So, during the second phone call with Hanayome, I must avoid choosing poorly defined multiple choice answers. I have a supernatural feeling that this puzzle, based on multiple choice wordplay, does not translate cleanly from Japanese to English. In the phone booth is another poster. 5 years ago, a woman was kidnapped close to this location. The phone rings. This time, when she says, "Did you see it?" I say, "Yes, I did," and a scream rings out. A bloody handprint slams against the glass. I can hear something outside the phone box. Then, The call ends. Hanayome is extremely concerned about being seen. I exit the phone booth. Nakamatsu spots something on the ground. That was not there before. It's a letter. To Seiko. I'll dispel all of your heartache. Forget that horrible incident and take your quiet rest in heaven. Back at the mansion, Christy is reading through the crime files in the garage. The four of us begin going through them together. Nakamatsu finds a case from 5 years ago. The victim's name is Seiko Hasegawa. On the eve of her wedding, she committed suicide in the forest we have become very familiar with. She was in her dress when she was found. Christy remembers this story from when she was still a news reporter. Seiko was abducted by a gang while she was walking her dog. They raped her in the forest. She was found battered and staggering along the road the next day. Her dog was run over and killed near the forest when it chased after them. This is not the end of Seiko's misfortune. Her rape was photographed, and the pictures sent to her fiancé. They would become public if he didn't pay a ransom. He paid the money, but Seiko was a serious and honest woman. She couldn't bear it. She had a mental breakdown and hung herself. The incidents that destroyed this woman each took place near the 3 phone booths. Abducted by the park, raped by the rest area, found by the parking lot. Seiko's fiancé was a famous musician. This is why Christy knows so much of this incident. The case was widely publicized in the news cycles. It happened right after they returned from a romantic vacation. After the incident, the fiancé began acting strange and then went missing. Not only that, but all of the culprits went missing too. Nakamatsu says among the forums he visited back in the day, there was one poster who knew too much, likely one of the culprits bragging about the act. They pulled a camera out after the rape and took pictures of Seiko's battered and tear-soaked face as she screamed, "Don't look." This particular piece of shit would post about the incident night after night until one day he didn't. The post stopped. Christy, who was a reporter at the time, has been to the location where Seiko committed suicide. We decide to investigate the scene. With Christy's directions, Nakamatsu and I go to the forest. On the drive over, Nakamatsu tells me about his favorite idol group, Love and Hero, insisting on showing me his favorite songs on a portable music player. Now, at the very familiar murder archway, a demonic dog greets us from the bushes, revealing the path we are looking for. Down the path is a clearing. In this clearing is a tree and an instant camera hidden in the bushes. The tree is covered in bloody photos of men. The photos are nailed to the tree through the eyes of the men. There is also something at the top of the tree. Luckily, with Nakamatsu, I can stand on his shoulders and retrieve it. It's a dog collar. The collar has a faded inscription. The first letter undecipherable. Then it reads ENTA. We feel spooked by the photos. There is a deep grudge against men here. I switch Nakamatsu with Christy, and we continue forward, where we encounter the demonic dog once again. It seems primed to attack, but with Christy at my side, it hesitates. I give it the dog collar and call its name, Genta. The dog turns and leads us further down the path, where a collection of dolls have been hung from the trees. From here, I bring Suzu with me to finish this investigation. The dog leads us to a clearing where we see it paw the dirt before disappearing. We dig, finding a skeletonized corpse holding a plastic bag filled with cassette tapes and a note. The note reads, "I killed them all. The ones who assaulted you. Now, you may rest in peace. I did what needed to be done. Now I will die here, in this forest where you passed away. I finished my new song. I want you to listen to it in heaven. Time is running out. There is nothing left for us to investigate. As Suzu and I drive back to the manor, the road never ends. We are no longer in reality. Panicking, I make the decision to go to the phone booth by the forest. I step inside. The phone rings. Hanayome makes her appearance. I take a picture of her with the instant camera, startling her enough for me to escape the phone booth. This is my chance. Using the portable music player I got from Nakamatsu, I play each cassette tape we found for Hanayome. She remembers the songs from her fiancé, but there is one she doesn't know, the final song her fiancé finished after her death. She wants to hear the new song again. As the song plays, Genta comes out from the forest, barking happily. Hanayome is surprised and happy to be reunited with her heroic dog. It's a good thing that I chose to go to the phone booth by the forest where Genta has been waiting. Hanayome finally fades away, peacefully, to be with her love in heaven. Suzu finds her mark is gone. Before we head back to the mansion, the phone booth rings once again. I choose to pick it up, and a gentle woman's voice speaks. I am so very sorry for causing you so much trouble. Please excuse me. The call ends, and we go back to the mansion. Christy and Nakamatsu's marks are gone. As I dealt with the spirit, Christy continued reading files and found one on the Kujo shrine in the forest. Some of the pages discuss the shrine's Go Shintai, the item that houses the deity spirit. There are two, a mirror and a small Buddha statue called a Nenjibutsu. While the mirror was at the shrine, the Nenjibutsu was nowhere to be found. The final pages contain an investigation into the stolen statues, stamped by Saya Kujo. A recent rumor discusses a back street that is covered in manholes. A woman wearing a white robe was seen cradling a headless Buddha statue before disappearing. I have a new lead, a clue. However, now that the others have been freed from their death marks, they too will leave tomorrow. Christy and I have developed a rapport across these precious few days, but like Mashita, she too cannot stay for my sake. I'll be sad to lose another familiar face, but for now, we all go to bed. I have searched the mansion for more information, but nothing of value comes up. There is one last locked room which I have been trying to unlock, but I haven't found the master key. A familiar knock at the door echoes. Another mark bearer has come. This is Ai Kashiwagi, an idol part of Love and Hero. She has been directed to the mansion by Madame Yasuoka, a fortune teller. Kashiwagi believes she got her death mark with Yasuoka as they were filming a TV special about supernatural mystery spots. Yasuoka herself will join us later. One of the mystery spots they visited was the back street. The path is clear. We go to the back street to investigate. Like the rumor says, the street is covered in multiple manholes. One of them is different, an older model, and rusted. We pry the lid open, and there is a long ladder leading down into a dark abyss. Is this where the lady in white robes disappeared with the Buddha statue? At the bottom of the ladder, we appear to be in a tunnel. At one end is a box where we find a hammer, a hatchet, and a notebook that smells terrible. At the other end is a locked door. I find this place unsettling. As we turn to leave, a homeless man jumps out of the locked door. He scares us off, saying this underground shelter is not for people like us. Kashiwagi and I make a hasty retreat. As we leave the tunnel, Madame Yasuoka is there waiting for us. Towako Yasuoka. We drive back through the Kujo mansion. Yasuoka, specializing in supernatural forces, is well acquainted with the Kujo family, although they've had a falling out 2 generations ago. Yasuoka is old. The last time Yasuoka saw the previous heads of the family, Masamune and Saya Kujo, was when they were kids, so she was very surprised when Saya contacted her a month ago. I myself am surprised by this revelation. First, it was Murasame, then Masamune, and then Saya Kujo. There have been 3 leaders of the Kujo family in 20 years. According to Yasuoka, the Kujo family is known for their short lives. It appears that Saya herself was fated to die early. Then, Kashiwagi interrupts. She says she saw the black rabbit in the yard, heading towards the building with something in its mouth. I have a really bad feeling about this. Something's going to happen. We all rush back to the grand hall. We find Mary on the ground, broken, and the black rabbit next to her, with its neck twisted. I can't even understand. Kashiwagi and Yasuoka help me pick up the remains in silence. When we settle down, Yasuoka pulls me aside. While cleaning, she found a master key. We use the key immediately to open the single locked room in the mansion. It looks no different from the other guest rooms, but this one has strange tools on the desk. There is a chisel with the letters MK engraved into it. MK could either be Saya's father, Murasame, or her older brother, Masamune Kujo. Yasuoka has heard the Kujo family used to be tasked with crafting Buddha statues. We turn our attention to a photo frame on the wall containing photos of what seems to be the construction of Mary. Mary has said that the first time she opened her eyes was in the Kujo mansion, so this checks out. But we notice she has the death mark on her arm. What could this mean? Is the Kujo family truly this cursed? Even Mary was susceptible to the death mark. More than that, who or what gave it to her? We found all we can from this room, so we go back to the main hall. But then, the smelly notebook in my bag offends my senses, reminding me to read it. It's a woman's diary, and Yasuoka recognizes the smell. She caught a whiff of it when she and Kashiwagi investigated the back streets for their TV special. This is when they got their death mark. The final page in the diary is from half a month ago. Very recent. The diary was written by an ex-teacher. She was called Miss Zhu by her students because she kept so many animals in the science lab. She worked at H Elementary. Because of the principal, the events of Hanahiko, and the eventual school fire, the building was shut down. Miss Zhu's paradise was taken from her. The diary speaks of the great Azura. Miss Zhu will die and be reborn with the wisdom bestowed on her by Azura, so that she may rebuild her paradise. Yasuoka finds the book disgusting, but it has given us a new lead. Miss Zhu worked in a lab which would explain the rumor of the lady in the white robe. It wasn't a robe, she was wearing her lab coat. We decide to investigate H Elementary once again. During the Hanahiko investigation, we did not go to the second floor of the building because the entire floor was covered in snakes. This time, when I go to the second floor, the snakes react to my smelly bag and scatter. The first classroom we investigate on the second floor is the science lab, which has its own storage room. In the room is an anatomical model where snakes are nesting. There are also human body parts in jars on the shelves. They look fresh. Finally, I take with me a few chemical bottles that look interesting and a garbage bag filled with shredded paper trash. As we go back to the science lab, the school intercom makes a broadcast. Miss Zhu wants us to take tests, which she has left in each classroom on the second floor, because she wants to know if we have brains. We finish the test, and I keep the answer sheet with me, which smells terrible. But that's not the only thing stinking up the science lab. Under the desk, in a box, is the rotting corpse of the security guard we met during the Hanahiko investigation. We leave the science lab. There are other tests Ms. Zhu wants us to complete, but there is one classroom that she has warned us not to enter. The classroom is locked with wire, which I dissolve using the chemicals I found in the storage room. Stepping inside this classroom was a mistake. It's a slaughterhouse. Gore is spread all over the floor, and severed animal heads are placed in a ritualistic manner on desks and walls. Most surprisingly, behind the curtains on the window ledge, a naked woman is being devoured by snakes. We quickly rescue her and decide it's best to regroup at the Kujo mansion. In the car, Kashiwagi helps dress the woman in lab clothes we found, and mentions she also has the death mark. The woman suddenly speaks up as we are talking. Her name is Maruka Hiro. She doesn't care what happens. All she wants to do is take a shower. At the mansion, we settle down and handle introductions. Maruka explains she has been chasing after someone named Manabi Zukawa before she fainted and woke up in the school. She confirms that Zukawa is Miss Zhu. They were colleagues from a lab Zukawa worked at after the school was shut down. Zukawa stole something from Maruka, which is why she has been chasing her. Maruka does not believe in the supernatural, yet, but she will help us deal with Zukawa. We go back to the school, restarting our investigation into the slaughter room, where I find a megaphone stuffed into the head of a horse. There is something about these animals. From their expressions, it looks like they died in pain. We move on to the other classrooms, where we continue doing these tests that are really not all that interesting and kind of slow down the pacing of this adventure. I feel great irritation as I have to go back to the Kujo mansion several times to swap my partner out to finish certain tests. But after becoming an S-tier student, I take all of my answer sheets, which smell terrible, and feed them to the snakes in the anatomical model. The snakes flee from their nests, and I am able to find matches and the key to the music room inside the model. But before we go to the music room, I have to do some bullshit. I use my supernatural walkthrough powers to figure this out. Understand? Before we face Ms. Zhu, we need to go to the first floor of the school, smashing a random wall, creating a Silent Hill-style hole that I stick my hand into to find an Aijin Arjura talisman. I walk away from the first floor, feeling great anger at all the time I wasted looking for this fucking talisman! In the music room, we find a piano and sheet music. Luckily, Kashiwagi is able to read sheet music and play piano, so despite Maruka insulting Kashiwagi's intelligence, she's really quite talented. Respect to anyone who can sight read at a proficient level. As I consider making Kashiwagi my Oshi, our time runs out. My death mark burns. Miss Zhu is on the prowl. Over the school intercom, she announces she will use our brains for her experiments. It appears that being a school dropout is indeed the better choice in this day and age, before an insane teacher corrupts my mind and uses my brain for her own nefarious ideologies. We can hear Miss Zhu approach. She's running from the first floor. We decide to ambush her from the music room. This is it. Miss Zhu is a disturbing chimera with a crocodile head, snake arms, and ostrich legs. I block her flying ostrich kick with a garbage bag full of paper. We need to distract her so Kashiwagi can play the piano for some reason. I really didn't pay enough attention to understand what music has to do with this boss, but I assume they gave me sheet music for a reason. So, using one of my chemical bottles and the matches, we create a wall of flames which confuses the snake arms, then scatter a different chemical which smells of flowers. Miss Zhu is intoxicated by the flowers and remains distracted, so Kashiwagi makes a run for the piano. For whatever reason, the melody she plays paralyzes Miss Zhu and she is weakened. Then, I burn the stupid fucking Azura talisman right in front of this crazy bitch. She can do nothing but watch as it smolders into ash. She clings onto me, rubbing our bodies together as she tries to save the talisman. She smells terrible. I really don't enjoy this unconsensual female contact. This is perhaps the least sexy situation I have ever been in so far. But then, Miss Zoo's snake arms begin to bite her to death, attacking her on the parts of her body that rubbed against my body, perhaps following the human scent. In her final moments, Miss Zoo becomes a gooner and relatively peacefully fades away. She leaves behind an old sticky map with the word army written on it, and I hesitantly take it. Kashiwagi's mark is gone. We leave and go back to the mansion. Yasuoka's mark is also gone, but Madoka's mark remains. The ungrateful cunt steal. I give Madoka the map we found because I am such a good person. She says it is a family heirloom. I care deeply for her. Now that the investigation into Miss Zoo is over, it's time for us to go to bed. Kashiwagi and Yasuoka will leave tomorrow. They both want to stay and help, but I send them away. Instead, asking that Yasuoka uses her connections in the supernatural enthusiast community to do further research on the curse. Madoka tells me about her map. It is a map of the underground shelter in H City. Whatever turns Zukawa into a monster is in the underground shelter. Madoka refuses to elaborate. Whatever is down there must be horrific. It's been a long day, so we all go to bed. We have wasted a whole day. Madoka is frustrated. I feel lost without Mary's guidance. A familiar knock echoes. I don't need Mary to know that it's another mark bearer. A tall, ghoulish doctor walks in. You can tell he's a doctor because he's wearing his stethoscope. Very subtle character design. We do our introductions. This is Shuji Daimon, sent over by Yasuoka. He actually calls himself out for the stethoscope. He figures wearing it will prevent having to socialize and explain his job to people. It also means the game developers don't have to put in more effort to establish his character and identity, which is not a bad thing. Daimon, of course, has the death mark. He has done his own research into the topic. The death mark has been mentioned in his grandfather's records as military physician in the Second World War, but this means the death mark has existed for over 50 years. According to Daimon, patients with the death mark were kept in a secret army laboratory. It was the end of the war. Japan was backed into a corner. People only believe in gods when they are in trouble. The 13th Army Engineering Lab was developing a weapon, the Cannon Soldier. Daimon does not know where the lab is, but Madoka does. Her map, unsurprisingly, is for the underground lab. Madoka found the map in her grandfather's belongings when he died 6 months ago. Daimon and Madoka, both grandchildren of men who were involved in the secret lab's activities. What could this mean? If Miss Zoo was not responsible for Madoka's death mark, and Daimon received a death mark for seemingly no reason, could it be the sins of the fathers passed to the children? Is the death mark even more insidious than we realize? We must investigate. 50 years ago, the Buddha statues were stolen. 50 years ago, the Second World War was at its end. With Madoka's map, we find a second entrance to the underground shelter through a different manhole. We descend into the abyss from the long rusted ladder. What awaits us down in that darkness? Looming concrete walls and stagnant air. In the perpetual distance, a haunting Japanese war song is heard, chanting, never ending, and thus begins the investigation. The tunnels are covered in trails of blood, as if people were trying to escape. We find what looks like an operating room. There's a corpse, which Madoka inspects without hesitation. The cervical vertebrae has been severed in notches with a non-surgical tool. She has no idea why someone would do something so cruel, but it is clear the head has been intentionally and methodically removed from the body. In the cabinets, I find a gun and deteriorated notes. Next experiment, Azura statue, Connect male body and female head. Success. We continue exploring, finding another operating room. There is another corpse with the head removed. In the cabinets, I find Kagura Suzu bells, which were used by priestesses, and a notebook detailing codes for some sort of water system. As I put the notebook in my bag, something tangles around my hand. It's a thin thread, golden human hair shining in the light. A deeply concerning feeling builds inside me. I realize I have been here before. Memories that aren't mine flow out of my mouth. There's a wall that we must investigate. Before we find the wall, in another cabinet is an army sword and another notebook. The experiment miraculously succeeded. This must be divine protection. The Azura statue donated from H Shrine, created by a bloodline of statue makers, using a chisel donated by the same family. Severed head and tool together becomes the key. Finally, our dearest wish. I take Madoka over to the blank wall, and my memories tell me to touch the wall with an item that worships the gods. I use the Kagura Suzu bells, revealing a door. Madoka is baffled. Behind this door is a disposal vat containing the heads of Buddha statues. A coldness invades, the door is locked, and water rapidly fills the room. Using the water codes I found, a tunnel opens and we are drained out. When I wake up, the old homeless man greets me. He must have helped rescue us. He insists on coming with us to the Kujo mansion, hoping we will feed him as a reward. In the car ride, we handle introductions. The homeless man is Banshee Ito, likely a fake name. He takes our story very well. He believes there is a terrible grudge in the underground shelter, so this is nothing new to him. At the mansion, Banshee gives me a key for the underground shelter, and he runs off to the dining room for food. He confirms that he lives in the underground shelter. Despite how completely creepy it is, you gotta do what you gotta do. He was relatively fine until a weirdo showed up 6 months ago. That must have been Zukawa. Banshee avoided the shelter until about 1 month ago. Zukawa was no longer there, but he found something worse. A walking Buddha statue was stalking the tunnels, and Banshee now has a death mark. This must be the Cannon Soldier. Banshee is aware of the Cannon Soldier's history. After spending so much time in the shelter, he has read many of the leftover research records. The Heavenly Buddha Project was the project of a general at the end of the war. The shelter was built for this project. They performed tests on Buddha statues from H Shrine, trying to infuse them with spiritual power. Nobody really thought it would work, but one day, the statue starts moving. It went berserk and slaughtered everyone. Anyone who survived had red bite marks on them, the death mark. The Cannon Soldier wrecked everything and then stopped moving without explanation. We are all left deathly pale. We may have uncovered the truth behind the death marks. The Heavenly Buddha Project 50 years ago must have tapped into forces beyond our control and understanding. It is said, when the Cannon Soldier stopped moving, those who survived found their death marks had disappeared. Now, the soldier is moving again, and Madoka and Daimon, descendants of researchers in the Heavenly Buddha Project, now have the death marks in turn. If I am descended from one of those researchers as well, this must be why I have a death mark. The heart of everything causing the chaos. We must go back and defeat the Cannon Soldier. In the underground shelter, there is a room with a box filled with statue heads and a rotting female head. I take the female head with me. Daimon and I continue exploring, finding yet another operating room with a headless male corpse on the operating table. I try attaching the female head to the corpse, and it fits perfectly. The world suddenly distorts, and a horrific vision appears before me. A woman is on an operating table with her arms cut off and 3 other arms attached to her left side. Men in lab coats holding surgical tools stand over her. The ghosts of the researchers and victims are stuck forever in a nightmare of the past. A determined voice echoes from my right side. Hate. Hate this whole world. Tear it to pieces. The power to do that, I will give it to you. In the place where you hear me now. Hate them. kill them. Understand? I return to my senses. A key falls out of the corpse's hand. I use it to open a locked cabinet containing another gun and more research records. Suddenly went berserk, causing severe damage. Suture chanting. Complete insanity. Only those who made themselves deaf managed to remain sane. It is half spiritualized. Need sacred object to attack. Destroy human head, the heart of all this. I get a bad feeling. I make sure I take Madoka with me for the final battle. The note said, need sacred object to attack. The only sacred object I have are the Kagura Suzu bells, which were used by priestesses. Madoka is the only female in our group, so when the time comes, she will use the Kagura bells. In one final room, filled with headless statues, there lies a box. When we open it, the inside is lined with a multitude of sacred talismans. This box used to seal something inside, but now all that remains is a single red Western-style pillow cushion. I don't have time to think. Our time is up. My death mark burns. The cannon soldier is here. As it attacks us, a chanting can be heard. I fire the gun with blanks, and the noise deafens our hearing, preventing us from going insane from the sutras. I shoot the soldier with a real bullet, and the spirit becomes intangible. Madoka uses the Kagura Suzu bells, and the spirit is made solid once again. I use the experimental projectile sword to fire at the spirit. It becomes intangible, and Madoka uses the bells. The spirit becomes solid. It steps right in front of us, and I attack it with the rusty army sword. Madoka again uses the Kagura bells. The spirit finally stops, and I hear footsteps behind me. Banshee has come to help, shoving a large chisel into my hand. He found it in the room of the mansion and knew he had to bring it to me. In this instant, I knew everything. The heart of the curse, the object that gave birth to the spirit, was from the Kujo family itself. I swing the chisel down on the place of power, where one could hear the voice speak. The right ear. When I cut off the ear, the statue stares at me dispassionately and fades away with a smile on its face. The terrible grudge haunting this land for 50 years is finally gone. Banshee and Madoka confirm their marks are gone, but my death mark still remains. I don't understand. What the fuck is going on? Banshee explains that while we were dealing with the spirit, he was wandering the mansion, and his death mark started burning when he went near that locked room with the tools. As he investigated, he could see the large chisel glow with awesome spiritual power, and when he picked it up, a lady's voice told him to bring it to me. Madoka is crazy. She wants to continue studying the shelter, right now. But I insist we leave. When we pop out of the sewer, Daimon runs up to us. His death mark is also gone, and as always, it is decided that we will all split up now that they are free from the curse. Banshee will go back to living in the shelter now that Zukawa and the grudges have left. Madoka will study the shelter on her own time, and will bring Banshee food. She has also offered her help for whenever I decide to remove the Buddha statues. Daimon wants to eventually let the public know about the underground shelter, to properly honor the tormented souls that still wander. Just as I turn to leave, Banshee lets out a startled cry. I turn to look at him, and he's staring intently at me. He remembers now. The death mark is gone. He's no longer suffering memory loss. He remembers. Banshee has met me before. Twice. 5 years ago and 10 days ago. At this point, after defeating 5 spirits, I first arrived at Kujo Mansion 10 days ago. This means I must have met Banshee just before I lost my memories. 5 years ago, I arrived to the underground shelter and found Banshee. I wanted to know about the Heavenly Buddha Project. I was more concerned about the Kujo family than I was about the Cannon Soldier. As I expected, the head of the Kujo family was famous for his spiritual power, and the army asked him to help with the project. He loaned the army a number of the Kujo family's prized sacred treasures. The shelter had a list, a mirror, a chisel, Buddha statues, cursed objects, and holy talismans. They were all returned to the family, which means they are all in the mansion now. 10 days ago, Banshee saw the walking cannon soldier and escaped from the shelter, where he met me once again on the street. Apparently, I had only come back to Japan 1 month ago. I already had the mark and was suffering late stages of memory loss. Banshee returns a wristwatch and wallet I had forgotten when we met. There's no identification, but a familiar business card is inside the wallet. Saya Kujo, spirit healer. When we spoke, I told Banshee that there was no way a human head could make a statue move. It was not the project that made it move. It was all because of her. That's not all. I said that she gave me the mark. She loved watching me lose my memories and fear death. I killed her once, but she came back to life. I needed to do the same thing that was done 50 years ago to get rid of her. Banshee insists we get in my car. 10 days ago, I made him promise to take me to 8 shrine if I lost all my memories. I couldn't go before because the time was not right. I was conducting a ritual, and the summer purification rites had not finished yet. On the last day of June, you pass through woven reeds to cleanse yourself. Today just so happens to be the 1st of July, so the ritual must be finished. When we arrive at the shrine, Banshee checks the altar but finds nothing. They were supposed to be a small statue in a cloth pouch, a Nenjibutsu, the Goshintai for the shrine. 50 years ago, the head of the Kujo family used it to stop the cannon soldier. This is all Banshee can do for me. We go our separate ways. I drive back to the Kujo mansion, going through all the information as I drive. 50 years ago, a disaster struck the underground army lab. The cannon soldier was risen, not because of the experiments, but because of her. And together, they slaughtered the army. The head of the Kujo family used the Nenjibutsu to stop them. I planned on using the Nenjibutsu to stop her, but the purification ritual needed more time. The Goshintai has gone missing, and my memory has completely vanished. The biggest question remains: who is she? 50 years ago, she made the cannon soldier move. She was sealed by the Kujo head, and all sacred objects were returned, so she would have been brought to the Kujo mansion. In the shelter, in the box, was a single red Western-style pillow cushion. In the operating room was a tangle of golden hair. When I arrive at the mansion, my death mark burns with searing pain. She has no intention of hiding any longer. Mary's voice is soft. We meet again. She's come back to life rather quickly. I gave her a whole day, more than enough time. The rabbit's attack surprised her. Its great love for me pushed the rabbit into recklessness. I asked Mary, what is she trying to accomplish? Her reply is to drag the living to the depths of despair before killing them. She has already told me this. This is a spirit's utmost desire and joy, and I was her unwitting pawn. I brought the mark bearers directly to the spirits. Mary savored the taste of our despair. My investigations were charade to terrify us all even more. Mark bearers must stay in small groups. Do not contact outsiders. All lies to increase our fear. All the spirits created by her. 50 years ago, Mary was sealed. She awoke 5 years ago, unable to speak or move, but her awakening alone was enough to cause an evil curse. Those who died unfortunate deaths on cursed land became monstrous spirits. Hanahiko's abuse, the honeybee cult suicide, Seiko's suicide, all happened 5 years ago. When Mary regained full power 1 month ago, the cannon soldier began moving. The statue killed a woman, Miss Tsukawa, who also became influenced by Mary's evil. The truth has finally been laid bare. All except one. Mary's true form. Her porcelain face cracks. Ever since I declared that I would fight the mark, Mary has eagerly awaited this day. She has tasted my fear, sweet as honey, but she cannot take it anymore. The lights go dark. The clock ticks. Death is minutes away. I hear Mary stand up from the sofa. A voice rings in my head. Check within the red in my room. I go straight to Saya's room. I check the floor where her body was. The Nenjibutsu lays there, filled with impurity. I remember, I am the one who removed the Nenjibutsu from Mary, which allowed her to regain her full power, but I needed to cleanse it. I hear Mary in the room next door. She cannot sense me. Saya's blood and spirit is protecting me. Saya's voice echoes once again. Go to the place where I met my end. That can only mean one place. The entrance hall where the rabbit died. I check the Nenjibutsu. It's been cleansed. Saya tells me to press it against the death mark on Mary. Then, I raise my head to the staircase, rising into the darkness before me. I'm paralyzed. Mary approaches. She wraps her hands around my neck, but the Nenjibutsu clears the fog in my head. I drag my arm and press the Nenjibutsu to her right arm. Mary shatters into dust. Over the past 2 months, Mary has regenerated. I have been preparing extra spiritual defense measures. I replace the Nenjibutsu inside Mary. I pick her up and place her back in her wood box. She stares up at me from the depths. I have no idea if she is still aware of what's happening right now, but she is still terrifying. She will regain her power when the Nenjibutsu fades away decades from now. I am determined to find a way to destroy this cursed doll before that happens. Until that day, you need to stay asleep, Mary.